2008 was like a tornado came through our town and ripped apart buildings, ripped up telephone lines, ripped up things that had to then slowly be rebuilt over time. In that analogy, what we're experiencing today is a heavy snowstorm. It's shutting things down. But what we know is that as time goes on and that snowstorm starts to let up, things will reopen again. The courthouse will reopen. Restaurants and bars will reopen. We'll be able to go to a baseball or a basketball game. And the biggest problem there is going to be, can you get a ticket to that game? Because everybody's going to want to go out there and do that. People are going to want to get out of their homes and go and have a nice dinner. And so really, when we look at that graphically speaking, Goldman Sachs starts to show this V of a recovery versus a U, like what we saw in 2008. Really a sharp decline and then a sharp increase with further strong gains going into 2021. And when we look at it, experts, Wells Fargo agrees as well. They say here in this quote, "We do not expect a repeat of the severe recession of 2008 and 2009 because the virus and oil shocks are not endemic to the financial system, but are rather external. And once the virus infection rate peaks, we expect a recovery to gain momentum into the final quarter of the year and into 2021.
So David, I love your analogy that you came up with about the tornado ripping everything apart and we had to rebuild everything all over again, because that's what happened in 2008. The financial systems that we depended on got ripped to shreds, and it took us, in some cases, 5-6 years to rebuild them. That's why it took so long for the recovery. I like that you're talking about it as a snowstorm, meaning it's causing the same slowdown in business while that snow is here. But as that snow starts to taper off and eventually melt away, we don't have to rebuild any buildings. We don't have to rebuild our financial system. It will just immediately kick in. And that's why there's that V, curve versus the U curve. Yeah. But it will still have been technically, by definition, and I like what you said, let's not use the words recession. Let's use the definition of the word recession, an economic slowdown. But if that does happen, what is the history? You've done a great job with your research team of coming up with this next slide that I've seen that blew me away. Every agent should have this slide. Every agent should be putting this slide out. Every agent any marketing you're doing, any video you're doing, any Instagram post you're doing, any mailing you're doing, you have to have this slide with you. So show them that slide, because this was remarkable to me about what really happens to house prices during a recession.
Right. And you're absolutely right, Steve, using this wherever we can to get the word out about recessions and what has happened in the housing market during those recessions. So many of you have seen this before, some of you haven't, but we went back and looked at the last 5 recessions. And what we know is in 3 of those 5 recessions, home prices actually increased. In one recession, in 1991, we saw a slight decrease, but what we remember is 2008. We saw a significant decrease, almost 20%. And so getting this message out that recession does not equal housing crisis. Recession is an economic slowdown. We can see it right now. We see things closing down. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense that we would be going into a recession, and that would be the term that would identify that. So this slide right here, it's been out in the market. Again, people have seen it, but just because we have seen it, I think the important thing is not to fall prey to the curse of knowledge and say, well, I know that and I've seen that. I don't know that our clients know that. I don't know that people out there every day know what happened in the housing market in those last 5 recessions.